right, well, welcome back everybody to Pivot Point of View. I'm Dexter Millsap along with Becky Pearson, and I've been out a couple weeks, so I might be a little rusty at this, but Becky's been going strong, and we got some great episodes. So be sure to go back to our YouTube channel and check those out. Just some really great things that have been going on. I got the bonus race finals this week, so if you're there, come by and see me in the conference center and we'll get right into it. Becky, she's been really busy lately. So, Becky, tell me what you've had going on and some of the things that you've been seeing the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, so it has been really busy, full swing. May was a great month, and June's shaping up to be really good too. I've had some really interesting horse cases lately. We've had a 3-year-old that was diagnosed with EPM through a hair analysis. Okay. And so, whether you believe in that or not, she was able to describe almost to a T exactly what this little mare was doing. And she diagnosed her with the muscular form of EPM. So, I believe, now I might butcher the name, Sarcocystis feri. And then the one that is more the neurological form is Sarcocystis neuroni, I believe. But there's two different forms of the EPM, and this little mare has the muscular form, according to the horsehair analysis. I did speak with some of my vet friends about it, like, should I go get a titer done on her, just to confirm what the horsehair analysis said. And we decided, it's probably going to come back positive anyways, because most of these horses that are in this region have tighter levels of it. So we're just opting to go ahead and treat her. And then I also, and this is one of my own personal horses. I sold her as a yearling and then bought her back because she did have some issues. And just kind of diving into what issues are creating, what's the physical reason for her having these issues. And so I also found out that there's a clinic here in central Nebraska that takes really cheap x-rays. So I was a little suspicious that kissing spine might be an issue on this mare. And so, because she doesn't want to flex, and whether that was just a muscular thing or I wanted to rule out kissing spine, well, it turns out she actually has two spots on her spine that are showing some changes, and she's just 3 years old. And so I don't know if it's from trauma. I'm not sure if she flipped over at some point because of her fit that she throws when she is asked to do certain things. Um, so it's really going to be an interesting case so far. Right now, with her EPM treatment, she is starting to be less sensitive. So, kind of what her move, I guess I can tell everybody kind of what she was doing. She's super sensitive to touch on her side. Like the nerves were just like inflamed. Her muscles were so sore, just so body sore. Um, Even at in the round pen, when I would run my hand down her side, she wanted to bite me or kick me. I mean, and I think what started it off was she developed ulcers, which then compromised her immune system, which then let the EPM get hold, which then created more body soreness, which then has created these behaviors. I don't know if we're going to get her through it or not. Um, but we're going to try. And so, since starting the EPM treatment, she has been less sensitive to touch on her side. So, um, we started off with the herbs from Simply Equine. They're the ones that did the horsehair analysis, and she's already shown improvement. But I also did get like the diclazeril, um, the mixed EPM meds as well that I'm going to start here after I get done with high school finals, where I can be here every day to give her everything. And so I'm hopeful that we can improve her body soreness, and I'm going to work on her manually. I'm going to get her in her Pro 6. I'm going to get her working in that, engage her core, which hopefully will help decrease the sensitivity of her nervous system. and try to give her the best shot possible. I do feel like this is not genetic, so worst comes to worst, like I'm gonna sell her as broodmare sound only. It's just it's really sad because she is absolutely stunningly gorgeous. She has a little baby doll head on her. She's perfect conformation, and it is heartbreaking to see her go through this, but I kind of feel like God put her back in my life so I can help figure out what's going on. So
Yes, these horses, they talk to us in different ways, and you mentioned a lot of different things there. It's pretty timely that we're talking about Simply Equine. I just sent hair off as well on one of my horses that just wasn't acting quite right, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of what is going on, and for $50 to try to figure that out and give you some direction, it's really just worth the money every time. And we've been using them for quite a while, and the EPM stuff, the muscular stuff, we were new to when we moved down here. I mean, we hadn't really dealt with it much, and we associated EPM with mostly neurological type stuff. But the muscular stuff is interesting, and it does make them act different. And so when we first had a horse that started showing any type of signs that we're like, man, this horse isn't right. We took him to the vet, couldn't really figure out what's going on, but it was a big change in his attitude. And he was just more combative, flighty, things like that. That were just outside of his personality, really. And it was just with like simple things. And so we're like, man, this horse just isn't right. And I had a horse just recently that just always gentle, always want to be your friend, nothing bothers him. And then one day I took him somewhere, and man, he's watching at everything. And I chalked it up to like, man, he's young. We haven't really taken him many places, but he's been to this place before. So I don't know why he's so watchy of all these things all of a sudden. Well, then, loping him around and stuff didn't feel quite right. Um, just still continuing to look at stuff and be flighty for what, and he's never act like that. I'm like, all right, time out, something's wrong. So I talked to my vet. Sure enough, he had EPM symptoms going on. So we treated him for that, and he was different. But EPM always leaves you little gifts that at the end there's always some area that either raise their stress level due to an injury or whatever, that it always leaves behind for you to find later. And so Simply Equine is really good option to try to figure out what is left over and to initially figure out stuff as well.
yeah, I think it can give you a little direction. Honestly, with her, I just chalked it up to her getting ulcers when she was started. That's where I thought the bad attitude came from, and I thought it was residual from that. And then I had sent her to a guy to help, just put some pasture miles on, and he has feedlot and pasture to ride, and then he does start him on barrels too, and he was the one that said, "Hey, what do you think about us sending in hair on her?" And I'm like, that's a great idea. So yeah, it can give you some direction to go, and when you're kind of at your wits end with these, and the EPM is so hard to diagnose sometimes because it affects each horse differently. But yeah, I think a change in attitude definitely is a very big sign for sure. And her sensitivity level, like I had never had one that was so sensitive. Like, I mean, she just got really mad when you'd use your legs on her. Um, and but yet she was kind of lazy. And so, I had her here for a little while, and I had restarted her in the round pen, got back on her, and she was not a bucker, but her kind of go-to move with us was like rearing. And so if you got a hold of her with a spur, or man, she'd lunge forward, she'd suck back, and she'd rear straight up. And that's why I think maybe she has flipped over. She didn't flip over on me, but I think maybe at some point in her career she has because of what is showing on the x-rays. There's a little bit of arthritic changes in her withers. And so, to me, that kind of says she probably flipped over with a saddle on and caused some trauma there. And so it's just, it's sad that she's had to go through this already at 3 years old. But, hopefully we can get it under control. I'm going to send the x-rays off to a few other vets and get some opinions on the kissing spine, if we just try to manage it through injections. Um, I'm not sure if I really want to put her through kissing spine surgery, but we'll see. We might try to inject, see if that helps the situation. If it does, well, then, maybe that is a good indication that we should go ahead and do the surgery. I don't know. She's 3. How much money do I pump into her? That's always the $1 million question with these horses. So, but
Yeah. Hey, can you imagine trying to go through the training process, being in that much pain? I mean, and it's easy for us to be like, and we've all been guilty of it, and this horse just has an attitude program. They're bred hot. They're this. They're that. And really, there's an underlying issue. And in those babies, you're like, what could possibly have happened? But I mean, they get injured all the time running around in their pasture, in their pen. When it's muddy, they slip and they fall down. And some of the other signs of like this EPM type stuff, and it does like when they come under that much stress, plus they're injured, plus, I mean, it just compiles and their nervous system can only take so much. And then that's when these parasites just take a hold and, their coat will change. It'll dull up. They, like some of ours, their coat changes and they have a hard time gaining weight out of nowhere. And you're like, what is going on? I mean, we're pouring the feed to them. Nothing's, working. You've ruled out the ulcer stuff and they're still not gaining weight. And so it can be an incredibly frustrating deal. And once they've had it, I mean, you can pretty much tell when they're either starting to get it or in the beginning stages or full on just by those type of signs that you've seen before.
yeah, we've had a number of them throughout the years. I've had one that he was super hard mouthed, and he was like this when I bought him, and he also was like really poor cardiovascular shape. And I was surprised that the person I bought him from, I'm like, I'm surprised she doesn't have him in better shape than this. But I got him and I kept riding him and he never would gain his wind. And then he started losing a lot of weight in his hind end. And it was like I had two different horses. Like he was really heavy in the front end, but like nothing in the back end. And so found out he had EPM, treated him, just kind of kicked him out for a year. And it was amazing when we brought him back afterwards. He was softer mouthed and he could gain his wind. And so like it just really does affect him in so many different ways because it depends on where that organism attacks their body. So, it's a super frustrating disease. If you can catch it early enough, you hopefully can make a full recovery. But I've had horses in for rehab too that, I mean, their whole glute muscle atrophies away and like that horse, he is back to the barrel pen and is being successful, but it has taken a long time to really recover from that devastating disease. And so it is definitely a marathon and not a sprint with these horses, but I think getting it identified early is really key. And now, Destry, tell me, like you guys being down in Oklahoma, did you just automatically treat like once a year? Or how do you, because it's more prevalent down there, I think, than it is even here, even though we have it a lot here. It's really prevalent in Oklahoma. How do you guys handle that?
And there's a lot of people that do treat once a year, and really you just have to be attentive to your horse and recognize like when they start acting off or when they start losing weight and they're on the same type of feed and you're just like, I mean, we feed our horses plenty good, and so when they start dropping weight and they're not even getting rode and stuff like that, you're like, okay, like something's going on. I mean, that's the first indication for the ones that we have. You know, some
Mhm.
horses they stay hog fat and but their coat might go dull, or they'll have some sort of issue in the arena, whether it be a box issue or they'll start refusing the gate and the barrel pin. I mean, there's just different things that are not necessarily them, or a problem might get exacerbated if they have a little bit of a gait issue or a little bit of a box issue. Now they're acting full on blown up and you can't figure it out. And you talked about the atrophy in the hind end. What effect does the glute muscle have on the hock, if any? Because it seems like once we have treated this and we've gotten them through everything, for whatever reason, it seems like for ours, it's been like right hock is kind of the thing that seems to come up afterwards.
Mhm. With this particular horse, what he had a hard time doing was stabilizing his pelvis. So, like when he would weight that side, he'd drag the toe on the other side. He actually drug his toes on both sides. And so, you kind of wonder, okay, you got some stifle issue, but he wasn't able to keep his pelvis neutral and hold that. So it was his right hip that atrophied. So when that was the hind leg, that was the stance leg, and he had to swing the left one through, that left side of his pelvis would drop more because this glute wasn't doing its job. And so it would drop more and then he'd end up dragging that toe. And so it was interesting to do like slow motion videos with him. And honestly, if you go back to our YouTube channel and you look for the story of Jack, that's Jack. And he's a good friend of ours, Deb Christie. It was her horse. And he is, like I said, he's returned to the barrel pen. He's doing great. Jenna Eshelman is riding him, and he's a super nice horse. He's a son of Judge Cash, like, and just easy to be around. And that's why Deb wanted to do right by him and get him rehabbed correctly. And but it did take a while, and it sure was hard for him to lope a circle. All of those things were just really, really difficult. And it was nice for me to have him. I had him for 30 days and to, try to get him back to work and be able to see how he'd tolerate it. And then I used MagnaWave PEMF on him to help with the body soreness. We did body work, we did stretching on him. It's really a big process to rehab these horses that have a lot of atrophy from the EPM, for sure. Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. So really just pay attention to your horses and be open-minded about it. I think that's the one thing is, um, most people that they get so stuck on it being a neurological thing that they forget that there's other strains, at least now. I mean, I'm not sure how long these strains have been around. They've probably been around longer than we've known about them. But yeah, just be open-minded and really be attentive to those changes in your horse. And I'm saying like the attitude stuff is was a big one for me, especially when and it's hard when you get a new horse and you don't really
Mhm.
know that horse's personality or how they operate or anything. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's definitely one of the big things with me is the attitude, the drop in weight,
Mhm.
things like that.
And I feel like a lot of these horses, it's laying dormant in them and then it comes out in times of stress. And so a lot of times that's when they go to a new home. They're stressed out because their total life has changed and their gut health goes down. So then, because they stress out about stuff. And so then it gives these organisms a chance to grab hold. So I think one of the main things, and as I talk to more and more vets about this stuff, is if we can keep our horses' gut health good, then their immunity can fight these things off a lot. For a short time, because I had been so frustrated with a few horses that we bought coming down with EPM, um, I just automatically treated them before, like I bought them and I just treated them for EPM. Like, I did that for a little while. I don't know if that was a good plan or not, but I just was so paranoid about them getting EPM from the stress of the new environment. Now, I think I'm a little more savvy about keeping their gut health better. And so I truly do feel like the two foundations in horse health are keeping good balanced feet and keeping a good balanced gut health. I think if we can do those two things for horses, like we can help their health tremendously.
Yes, and especially you think like these young horses, like say you buy a horse in another state and you have it shipped to you somehow, or you're hauling a lot from whether it's rodeo to rodeo, or you're just uh, hauling long distances and things. I mean, really, it's hard to gauge how much stress that actually puts on them and can exacerbate these things.
For sure. Yeah.
'Cause I mean, like cattle, you get them in, you vaccinate them for all this different stuff, and then a lot of the time they'll revax in a few weeks. And so, yeah, I think that's a good system to have some sort of regimen when you get a new horse to getting them settled and doing some preventative stuff there. I'd have to do some more research on that on um, maybe some good approaches for that, but that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point. A couple other cases that I've had, I consulted with on a case for a peroneus tertius tendon rupture. And so the peroneus tertius helps bend the hock. And this was actually a performance injury. This gal was running her horse and um, kind of like I don't know exactly how it tore it, but she was running to first barrel and the horse just ducked in real quick because it tore this. And the video was it's ugly. I mean, honestly, like the whole lower limb was flopping backwards. I think they thought maybe it broke its leg for a little bit. Um, but they found out it is this tendon that is ruptured. The vet's prognosis of this is a year of stall rest. And so the owner contacted me to see if there's some things that we can do to help with the healing process and to, do a little bit more joint protection while she's in the stall. The mare is not in much distress, but we were able to come up with a plan for her to minimize the stall rest stress.
Where exactly is the that tendon at?
Right in the front of the hawk. It's really like you don't hear about it a whole lot. And whether it's truly the peroneus tertius or what, something that brings that mare's lower limb forward ruptured. Like they didn't do a lot of diagnostics on it because honestly, trailering her, getting her in and out of a trailer is like devastating. And so just from diagnosed from movement is what they did. So we're gonna she's gonna revisit the vet's gonna come out and take a look, here in a few months and see how things are going. But there are things that you can do for your horse on stall rest. I showed her some core exercises for her horse, like some sternal lifts, some butt tucks. Those are all exercises that we have available for people. Tail pulls to keep the muscles that she has, to keep them working. Baited carrot stretches side to side. Those are all great things to do. We're not having her do any leg stretches at this point. I don't, definitely not on that injured leg, but, like even on the other limbs, I didn't want her stressing that injured limb from trying to bear weight. And then what we did, we took some kinesiology tape or rock tape and we taped the front of that to help hopefully minimize a little bit of the hyperextension of that hock. Um, I taught her how to do that. It's not going to hurt. I don't know that it's going to help, but and then of course rock tape helps with the swelling. And we have initially put a microcurrent unit on there to again help speed up the healing. And we have an Assisi Loop that is ordered for her as well. And so, have you ever done anything with the Assisi Loops, Destry? Have you ever heard of them?
I've not. I looked them up and they sound like really good things. Can you tell us more about them?
Yeah, so it's a PEMF device, so pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device, and I learned about them when I went to the certified equine rehab practitioner program at the University of Tennessee. And it's a really small, just a loop. Well, they have a 10 centimeter and then they have like a 20 centimeter loop. And it it's just self-contained, it's battery operated. Once the battery dies, you just throw it away. But it's a nice option for people that don't have like a big MagnaWave. They don't want to spend $7,000 on a Beamer or, more on a MagnaWave or a PEMF machine. And so, they're roughly about like $350 with tax and all that kind of stuff. And it has 315-minute treatments in it. And so you hit go on it, it'll cycle for 15 minutes and then automatically shut off. And so we have one of those on order for this mare. So she's going to use it to help just increase the healing with it. And honestly, I've had a couple people that had some fracture healing or post-surgical fusions that weren't healing, and they were coming to me saying, "Hey, how can we speed up this bone healing?" And I'm like, "Let's try one of these loops." And it's been really fun because one of them was a cervical fusion that wasn't healing, and he loves it. He said it takes all the ache away out of his neck. He uses it every morning, puts it on for 15 minutes, and then goes about his day. And then the other one was a radial fracture. They initially were telling him that he was going to be 8 weeks of really nothing more than a pencil that he can lift. We got him the Assisi Loop. He's been using it 3 times a day for 15 minutes. And he went back to the doctor last week, and they actually they said they re-x-rayed, they cut his healing time. They said down after the 4th of July he'll be able to go back, which cut 4 weeks off of his time frame that they were telling him. So he's really going to be pretty much at 6 weeks he will be back to riding horses and doing everything that he needs to do. So that's been really fun, and he's off of all of his pain meds. He said, when it gets a little achy, he puts the loop on there, runs it for 15 minutes, and then it just pretty much takes that pain away. So it's a really neat device. I do offer them for sale if anybody wants them. You can find them on Amazon too. It's there are a really handy device that isn't going to break the bank if you have an animal or yourself that needs a little fracture healing or a little stimulation to improve your healing. I also did some PEMF on a weenie dog that was having some bad back pain and didn't want to move. It's my ex-mother-in-law's dog, and it's amazing. Like she's like, oh my gosh, he's acting like he's like 2 years old again. So the PEMF is a wonderful device and modality. And so there's a lot of options out there. You don't have to feel like you have to go spend a ton of money on it. Because like I said, there are some little portable devices that are very effective as well.
How do you use those exactly?
So I end up like usually just taping them on with rock tape. So dependent like on a horse, or you can even attach it to like fly sheet or fly boot, or just tape it on or hold it there. It's pretty easy to do that way. Like with the dog, usually, he was a little lap dog, so just put him in the lap and held it on while he was there. So yeah, they're pretty easy to manage. That kind of covers what I've been up to, seeing quite a few riders. Uh, and then yeah, have high school state finals coming up this week. We leave tomorrow for that. Gracie's sitting pretty good in standings. I don't think she's going to make nationals unless she has a outstanding round every round and some people ahead of her stumble, but that's okay. But she's going to sure give it a good shot. Probably her best shot is going to be in poles. The pole horse is working outstanding, and she's been working with Jade. If y'all, Jade Atkins, Jade, I always call her Jade Atkins. Sorry, Jade. Jade Trump. She's been a guest on the podcast. Jade's a wizard for polls and she does virtual coaching. We've done the virtual with her, and Gracie's been able to do some in person lessons. And so that's probably Gracie's best chance at making nationals is if she can make it in the polls. And so pretty excited about that and probably be helping out the sports medicine gal there at state finals this year and possibly also at Buffalo Bill Rodeo. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Lots of fun stuff coming up. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. And if you get a chance this week and you're down at Bonus Race, stop by and see me. If you're at the Nebraska State High School Finals or Buffalo Bill, be sure to get with Becky. And again, thank you all for your support. Be sure to like and subscribe so we can help reach more people. And as always, let your health be the pivot point to your success.